This is the third and final part of my response to Bill Maher's movie Religulous. The first argument really worth mentioning is the Christ myth theory. It's the idea that Jesus Christ never existed and he's just a myth or a legend. This is popular in books like The Christ Conspiracy and Deconstructing Jesus, and also documentaries such as The God Who Wasn't There and Zeitgeist. There is a tinge of it in the Da Vinci Code. But this idea that Christ was only a myth, it fails scrutiny at every turn. One of the parallels he makes is Christ is copying other pagan gods. And one of the things he says is, look at the birthday of December 25th. Other gods have this birthday of December 25th, therefore Jesus just must be copying them. This is irrelevant. Any intelligent Christian knows that Christ was not born on December 25th. In fact, that date was given to us by the later Roman Church trying to outdo the winter solstice. We can guess by the New Testament that Christ was actually born near the winter or the fall because of the sheep and the shepherds. Many of these parallels like this usually fall flat for similar reasons. They usually mention the virgin birth, the death and resurrection, but these have all been highly disproven. The first god to mention is Mithra. It is claimed that Mithra was born of a virgin as Christ was, but the actual history of the Mithraic legend is that Mithra was born fully grown, not as a baby like Jesus, and out of a rock, not out of a woman. And so there is no real parallel. Technically, I guess a rock would be a virgin, but there's nothing to really compare it to. Another supposed Mithraic parallel is that he had 12 followers. The only documentation for this is that there's one image of Mithra with 12 people around him. Now, most scholars would actually say that these 12 people represent the astrological signs, not 12 disciples. And also, this picture came after the time of Christ, meaning that if it is a copy, it's actually followers of Mithra copying Jesus, and not vice versa. Another claim from Mithra is that he sacrificed himself, again, trying to show that Jesus is just copying Mithra. Simply stated, there's just no evidence of this being the case. And likewise, there's just no evidence of Mithra being resurrected. So to say that Mithra is a parallel really falls flat. The next god I'd like to talk about is Osiris. The claim that Osiris had a similar death and betrayal is untrue. Osiris died because he was thrown into a coffin and drowned. Later his body was taken out and torn into over 100 pieces. He was not killed as Jesus was. Also, he was betrayed by his enemies, not by his friends. So there's no parallel there. Also, the claim that Osiris was resurrected falls short as well. There is no resurrection. If we know anything about Osiris, is that he ruled the dead in the underground, not coming back to life in a glorified body, being the King of Glory. One more god to talk about is Dionysus. Again, the 25th of December birth date is meaningless, and it also does not apply to Dionysus. One story of Dionysus' death is that he was torn to pieces by the Greek Titans, and his body eaten by these Titans. This is supposed to be a parallel to the Eucharist. Nowhere close. Although there are many other parallels mentioned, these are the big ones. So as you can see, there's no actual parallel to be made, and any claim of such either is stretching things out of context, or it's irrelevant, or it's making things not even be recognizable. And other times it just comes later and it's copying Jesus, not the other way around. So these claims are utterly wrong, further showing Bill Maher's utter lack of scholarship. The way that Bill Maher uses these copycat claims is to show that Jesus never existed. But this leaves him to a problem, because we have a lot of evidence of Christ's existence, besides the New Testament itself, which in fact is a historical document. We also have non-Christian sources, such as Tacitus and Josephus, as well as Thales, Pliny, and Lucian. And usually people do not add in there the early church. People like Clement of Rome, Polycarp, Ignatius, and Papias all show that people believed Jesus lived, died, and resurrected very early on, some of them in the late 1st century. The next major argument that Bill Maher makes are just his simple naturalistic presuppositions. Most skeptics of any religion always try to argue against the miracles, but they have no real ground to do that, because to claim that miracles can't happen because scientific laws can't be broken is a circular argument. To say that miracles can't happen presupposes that miracles just can't happen. Another argument that Bill Maher makes in this movie is the problem of evil. Like any good skeptic I've talked to, this is one of their favorite arguments. Now, this is when he's talking to the guy who plays Jesus. He doesn't allow the guy who plays Jesus to give a good response, and he edits out anything he says. Also, he just kind of laughs at him, doesn't accept the argument at face value. So, Bill Maher doesn't understand the problem of evil is easily argued against simply because we look at the person of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is an innocent man. He lived a perfect life. He never did any harm to no one unjustly. And he helped and healed people. But we still took him and crucified him and killed him. That would be like us taking a seemingly innocent baby, putting it on the cross, whipping it, and watching him die. Possibly the worst crime ever committed is the death of an innocent man. So we think of this as being the worst crime possible, and yet for us Christians it is the good news. It is how we have salvation. So God turned this bad event and intended it for his own glory and the greatest purposes. Bill Maher refuses to acknowledge the problem of evil is the core of the Christian argument. Not only does God use evil, but he intends for it for his own glory. Bill Maher cannot prove gratuitous evil. The next argument that Bill Maher really has is his skepticism. When all is said and done, Bill Maher is just preaching the gospel of skepticism. He claims to be skeptical is to be humble, and that is the best solution. But if we really look at what he's saying, why is his skepticism not extending to his own skepticism? This is a major problem with skepticism. Why aren't you skeptical of your own skepticism? It's inconsistent. Plus, he's secretly trying to show that people who are certain of anything are just arrogant. But he himself claims to have certainties, such as Jesus Christ didn't exist, or evolution is true, or miracles can't happen, we've talked about in this video. So, Bill Maher is certain of some things, therefore refuting his own skepticism. For Christians, certainty should give us confidence to preach and teach and live a Christian life. But we should recognize that our salvation is not of ourselves, it's from God. So we have no reason to be arrogant or to boast. We can have all the confidence in the world that God did what he did and that his word is true, and that he will ultimately save us. And we can do these things in a humble and loving way, and let our talk be seasoned and gracious. There's no need that certainty results automatically in arrogance. In conclusion, I cannot recommend this video for anyone. Surely some of it's funny, but it's a letdown at every level. Bill Maher misrepresents people, it misrepresents beliefs, it traps people into interviews they don't want, he works in all his presuppositions, he does no scholarly work, and he just simply doesn't make his case. And if that's not enough, he would offend his people by having unnecessary and inappropriate elements in the movie. Also, let me finish up by saying that may this movie, rather than inspiring atheists and agnostics, let it inspire us Christians to learn more about our faith, to provide solid answers so we can defend against such weak attacks as this. I hope you have found this 3-part presentation helpful. Again, I'm Dan Knapp with the Didascalia Christian Apologetics Ministry. Thanks for watching, and God bless.